And let's bring in retired four-star General Frank McKenzie, the former commander of U.S. forces in the Middle East, now executive director of the University of South Florida's Global and National Security Institute, and he is the author of The Melting Point. General McKenzie, great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wonder what goes through your mind as you listen to Trey's report and you watch the events of the past couple of days, where Hezbollah is under tremendous pressure. Iran is also under tremendous pressure, having lost major leadership. And now we are at one of those perhaps tipping points in the Middle East. What is your take?
Well, Martha, I think actually the people that are under the most stress are the Iranians. They've watched their principal ally, Lebanese Hezbollah, be decapitated. They've watched significant attrition of their military capabilities. And now the Israelis are methodically clearing north of the border so that their Israeli citizens can return to the northern tier of kibbutzes, cities, and villages in northern Israel. All of this is bad news for Iran. Last night, they launched a second major ballistic missile attack on Israel. By any objective measure, that attack too failed. So now Iran has really delivered a maximum effort against Israel. They can't count on Lebanese Hezbollah to assist them in further attacks because of the decapitation and the ongoing Israeli military operations up there. So the people whose backs are really against the wall right now, waiting for the Israeli response, is Iranian senior leadership. They're not in a good place right now.
All right, two questions on that. The first one is about Hezbollah and what has happened to them. And were you surprised that they were able to launch over 200 missiles? And I think we're still learning about potential casualties in Israel, but an extraordinary situation where, I mean, isn't it humiliating to them that none of these missiles, or the majority of them, were not able to penetrate or to do any damage or significant damage?
I think it's very humiliating to them. The crown jewels of Iran actually are its ballistic missiles, its drones, and its land attack cruise missiles. Now, in the attack of last night, they chose not to use drones or land attack cruise missiles. My theory would be in order to gain surprise against Israel because of the 12 to 14 minute time of flight. However, we're able to discern when the Iranians begin to deploy their missiles. We know ahead of time. It's very difficult for Iran to gain surprise when they bring their missile force into the field. So we were able to respond. The Israelis did a very good job. We certainly assisted them. And I agree with you. I think that attack was largely ineffective, and it's got to be profoundly embarrassing to the Iranians. But one last point I'd make, Martha, the Iranians have a boundless ability to lie to themselves within their own chain of command about how successful or unsuccessful their attacks are. So what we would want to know is, how is that attack actually being reported to the Supreme Leader in Tehran? We might be surprised at what he's learning about it.
Yeah, well, he's got to be a little nervous about his own future at this point, because he watched the leader of Hamas be taken out in Tehran in a building there when he was at a ceremony, and then Nasrallah, and he has to be wondering if his days are numbered as well. With regard to what President Biden said about discouraging an Israeli attack on nuclear sites within Iran, I mean, that is the ultimate threat that faces Israel. And do they see this as a window that cannot be missed to mitigate that threat and to try to take out those sites, General?
Well, Martha, I probably know as much about the Iranian nuclear program and the Iranian nuclear target as anybody in the world. That's a very large order to take out that program. If the Israelis wanted to do it, it would require vast expenditure of resources. It wouldn't be able to be done very quickly. It would be a long, hard slog. Can they do it? Possibly. I would think, actually, just speaking as a military observer, there are other more significant targets that you might want to undertake first as you calibrate your response to an attack against Israel that caused very few casualties and failed, and actually had the effect, as I've noted earlier, of pushing Iran further and further against the wall and into a very lonely corner. So the nuclear program is certainly a target. There are other targets they could undertake. They might even choose to use restraint, although I would note that the restraint they used after the 13 April attack on Israel by Iran, Israelis fought back a couple of nights later with a very carefully sculpted, technologically impressive small attack. That didn't prevent the Iranians from coming back with the big attacker yesterday. So the Israelis have probably learned that lesson. So I suspect the Israeli response will be larger, probably much larger than what we saw in their response in April. As to who it's going to go against, all of the initiative, and I mean this absolutely, all of the initiative is with Israel right now.
General McKenzie, you're a wealth of information and have spent so much time in the region, and we're going to have you on speed dial, I think, over the next several weeks. And we so appreciate you spending time with us, sir.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.